right, I'm going to show you via packet tracer what the initial configuration and initialize, so basically initializing a switch and so erasing everything and restarting. And then I'm going to show the basic configuration in the switch. So what we'll do is we're just going to use packet tracer and we're going to use the command line interface. It's just a regular PC. I'm not going to go through the whole lab, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this bigger so that you can see what I'm doing. And we're not going to worry too much about the initial configuration change. There we go. Not any of that stuff yet. Right now, it looks like there's not anything that has been installed on here, but we'll double check. We could do show run to look and see if anything has been configured on here. Doesn't look like it. And then we'll do show VLAN. So on a switch, you have to look at two things. You have to look at the VLANs and you have to look at the show run. Because those are the two things that could make changes, and there's two separate files for those. So on here, you can see that all of our ports are on the default VLAN 1. We don't have any extra VLANs. These are also ones that are normally on there. And then everything is under the default VLAN. So I think it's safe to say that probably this one wasn't messed with, but I'm going to show you the commands anyway. So if you want to erase the startup config, it's just erase startup, and then, or erase start, and then you just hit confirm. You just hit enter to confirm. Whatever's in brackets, you just hit enter to confirm it. So the erase is complete. The shortcut for that, which I like to use sometimes, is WR space E for write erase, and it does the same exact thing. So, I mean, it looks exactly the same. Now, there probably isn't a flash file on here, and you could go and look for it, but what we're going to do is you always want to do two things. Erase the startup and then delete the VLAN.dat file. And so VLAN.dat is in brackets. We can just hit enter. You want to delete that flash file? Yes, we do. Confirm it. And it says error deleting it, probably because we didn't create one in the first place. And so in the end, I'll try and show you. In the where we create VLANs video, I'll show you what that VLAN.dat file looks like. Okay, so now that we're on the general switch, we did those commands. We would want to reload. And so this might take a minute, and it's going to reload and kind of yell at us and give us a whole bunch of pound signs or hashtags, and then it'll pop up. So this is quicker than live equipment. If you are on live equipment, you will have some issues with it. Not issues, but my students aren't patient enough sometimes. So it does take a couple minutes for it to start up. So this started up very, very quickly. And you can see on startup, it tells you how many ports, what model it is, what version it is, and where the image is stored. So we're at 12.2. The newest release is in the 15s, I think 15.3. That's the release that the lab's like. And then you can see all of the different MAC address, motherboard assembly information, all of that stuff. So what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do though, is we're going to change the host name, because that's the first thing I like to change so that I know where I'm at on any of the labs, or I know what machine I'm on. You know, it's kind of important when you log into something that you kind of know the name of the machine that you're taking care of. It just makes sense, right? So we're going to go and type enable to get into privilege exec mode. But really, privilege exec mode, we can just see different things. We can't really change too much there. And when we change any of the global commands, you know, we're going to go into global configuration mode. So config T or configure terminal gets you into global configuration mode. First thing I'm going to do is type in hostname, spell it right, hostname, and then switch 1. So it immediately changes. This is about the only command that you actually see something happen right away. If you make an error, it will give you a little caret here. Like if I went hot name, switch 1, it gives me a caret right where it's misspelled. So, you know, it'll tell you where you made a mistake. And you can also do, like if I did host name and question mark, this is probably not the greatest one, but when you do question mark, it will kind of tell you how to go along. So if you get stuck at any point, you can use question mark to help you out. The other thing is we require for Cisco 2 that command line book, the portable commands book, and that is a really great book. I use mine all the time. So that is something that is very good. The up arrow and down arrow takes you back and forth through. So those are just some navigating through the command line. So we did the host name, we changed that. Now we're going to take it so that we disable DNS lookup. So if you misspell something, it's not going to do, it's not going to try and look it up. So, and that happens to me all the time. So no, and then IP domain -lookup to disable DNS lookup. It took it, so hopefully it worked, right? And then we're going to put in a domain name. The basic configuration that Cisco likes is we have the switch name, disable DNS lookup, we have the domain name, we set the passwords for the privilege exec mode, for the console password, we set up telnet and SSH, we encrypt the plain text passwords, we set a banner, we generate our crypto key, configure an IP address on the management interface, and then we configure default gateway. So those are all the things I'm going to do right now. And we'll go through, we did IP domain lookup. Now we're going to do the domain name. So disabled DNS, now we'll do domain. So the domain name, we just do IP domain -name, and then we do a domain name. So I'm going to do rvc.com. That's just going to be one. And I made that up, whatever, but Cisco likes to use ccnalab.com. I'm just going to use rvc.com. Then let's do the enable secret password. So enable secret, and then I'm going to type in Cisco for the password. And then I'll show you if we exit out twice and we get back in, we have switch 1, did not have a password to get into the console, but we will type in enable again, and now there's a password. So that is the password I just set. Now let's go back into global config mode by typing config T, and then we're going to use set a console password. And in this part, we can set logging synchronous command. In what it'll do is as the switch updates, it will instead of interrupting you, it will put your cursor back on a new line. So I like that logging synchronous command. Let's see. We are going to do linecon 0. So we are in global config mode. We're going to type in linecon 0. It's short for line console 0. And then we're going to do password class. And so the password is class. And then we're just going to type in login. And that is the basic configure password for the console. If you don't type in login, it's not going to set it for you. And that's one that students generally forget. In order to kind of put yourself on a new line, this is not something that's required by anything. It's just something nice that I like to use is logging synchronous. And then I don't like typing out synchronous because I always misspell it. So I hit tab to spell out synchronous and then enter. And now when we start updating the switches and that, it won't interrupt us. So it'll be real nice. You'll see. What else are we going to do? So that was the console password. Let's see if we'll exit out and see now there's a password. And this is the class password. We'll type in enable. This is the Cisco password, which is our enable secret password. So now you can see the progression on how we, on the passwords that we created. Oh, it helps when I spell things right. Now we're back into global config mode again, and we're just going to create a administrative user in the local database. So this is just going to be an admin user with the password class, and we're just going to create it just by typing username, admin, secret, class. So the password is going to be class. The username is admin, and the password is class. Enter. That is done. Now we're going to go and we're going to set the VTY lines or the telnet lines, and we're going to actually try and turn on SSH. So we got line VTY, 0 to 4, and 0 to 4 is how many lines? So we've got 5 lines, lines 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 that we're setting. We're going to log into the local database, typing login local. And then we're going to do transport input SSH. Enter. And that switched us over to SSH. So that's everything for switching into SSH. So when we do SSH, we do not have to set a telnet password. We're going to end up using the administrative password that we just created for admin and class. If we were just going to use telnet, we'd do line VTY04, we'd type in login, and we would type in whatever the password was, just as we did for the console. But you always want to use SSH because telnet transports everything in plain text. So now let's go back one. So we're going to type in exit to go back to global configuration mode and get out of the basically SSH configuration. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that when you have, say for example, if somebody's standing behind you and you type show run, it will encrypt all of the passwords, so it won't show them in plain text when you type in show run or things like that. So let's do service password dash encryption, and that will change that. And then we're going to do a banner message of the day. So all it is banner MOTD, and then I like to use the caret, which is Shift-6. You have to have a character in front and a character at the end. And I know some of the Cisco instructions say hit the character, then hit enter. No, I just like to write it all out on one line, and it's going to be keep out. And the reason I like to use the caret is because exclamation and question mark and period are all characters as well. And the caret is something that we don't generally use a lot. Enter, and that should work. And I'll show you where that's at. And then we're going to generate a crypto key. And all it is to generate the crypto key is key generate RSA. And we're going to set it to 1024 bits. So we're going to set the modulus to 1024 bits. And so crypto key generate RSA. And then we're going to say modulus 1024. I spelled everything correctly. I didn't know. Let's do question mark real quick because I am missing something here. Well, we can do general keys. I don't know if this is going to let us. Oh, there we go. It has been enabled. So crypto key generate RSA general dash keys and then modulus 1024. So that's what we've got. And then and you saw how I used question marks, so that's kind of helpful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to configure the management interface. So whenever you configure the management interface, you are going to put that IP address on your management VLAN. So right now we haven't changed any of the VLANs. We're just basic. So by default, VLAN 1 is the management VLAN. So that's where we're going to set the IP address. That's why when you're first learning, everything is set on VLAN 1, all the IP addresses. You do not have to set an IP address on each VLAN unless there's a specific purpose for it, but you would want to set the management VLAN IP address. And that's just basically, I would just set one IP address and have it as the management. So if you changed it to VLAN 10, if you changed your management VLAN to VLAN 10, that's where you would put the IP address. All right. And most places are going to change it because VLAN 1 is default. You wouldn't want to leave it that way. So but we're going to use the default. So interface int VLAN 1, since that's our default VLAN and our management VLAN. And we're going to put in the IP address. IP address 192.168.1.2. This is the IP address for the switch management VLAN. So when you look at the the chart, if you're given a chart, you would look at the chart and it would tell you what the switch management VLAN would be, or IP address would be, and that's what I'm putting right here. I always just do no shot all the time, just so that I'm used to the type in no shot. So you'll notice that it came up and we got some, it tells us that some updates. And so it tells us that we are up and up on VLAN 1, and it put us on a new line. So instead of just cutting us off, it put us on a new line, and that's what that logging synchronous does. Super nice command. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to back out one, and we're going to put a default gateway. So when you put a management IP address on a switch, you also want to put a default gateway for the router that is connected. And it's just really important so that you can, contact the switch. Or if you want to ping the switch, if ping is on, default gateway. And then default gateway in this instance is 192.168.1.1. So the default gateway is going to be your router interface most likely, and the directly connected router interface. And then the switch IP address is the management IP. So IP default gateway 192.168.1.1. And that is everything for the basic configuration. So let's back out one, and we're going to do a show run, and you'll see everything that we added. And here's the first part here. We changed the switch name, so hostname switch 1. Here is our service password encryption that we typed in to get our passwords encrypted. We have enable secret, and that encrypted it. No IP domain lookup. Our domain name, so we shut off DNS. We have our domain name that we put in there. We have our administrator user with a password. Let's hit space. We did not do spanning tree, that just is there. Okay, so we have interface VLAN 1, IP address, and then the default gateway. This is all just IPv4. I didn't do any IPv6. Here is our message of the day, keep out. And then we have our LineCon 0 information. So really what I could do is I could take this whole thing, since it's in Packet Tracer, since it's in Packet Tracer, I went too far, but I can take all of the run, and I can transfer it. I don't know why talking today is a bad thing for me. So if I came down here and started with service password encryption, I could come down here and I could copy it and then open up a notepad. Takes a minute. I have 2 monitors, and so everything gets all over the place. And I can paste it in Notepad. So here's what we can do is you can actually, I think this is the wrong one. This did not copy. It did not copy for me. Let's see. There we go. So you could copy it into here. So with Packet Tracer, it's a little more difficult to copy over. Not that it's difficult, you just have to pay attention. So if I go up without too much, and you don't have to have all of this. I'll show you how to clean it up real quick. And then I'm just going to go to service password encryption, and you have to click on copy, which was, I just hit Control C because I'm so used to Control C. We're going to do Control A. That out. We're going to put the new one back in. So I'm going to delete anything I didn't do, and I'll show you what this will do for us. Default gateway. I think I could probably leave all the exclamations in there and it would be fine, but I'm going to get rid of everything. Let's see. I'll show you what I'm going to do. Because we did the service password encryption part, we need to take and do our enable secret with our password. I think I said Cisco for this one. Yep. And then we have no IP domain lookup. And then we're going to take this and we're going to make this one class, I believe. We have our interface VLAN 1, and then this is where I do no shut. Let's see, banner keep out. And then we've got our line console. I'm going to get rid of password, input SSH. And then we're going to take the password and we're going to make a class. Okay, I think that's everything. So now this is just kind of all of the basic commands all in one. Oh, the only one that we didn't do is the crypto key generate. So that is under, let's put it under right before the interface VLAN. So crypto key generate, generate, RSA, general key, modulus 1024. Let me move this back in so you can see it. Crypto key generate, let me see. And you want to make sure that you have everything spelled correctly. I have a tendency to spell generate wrong, so everything looks like it's spelled correctly. So now I have this in Notepad. I could save this as my, so I can do file save as. I'm going to do, no, not that folder. OneDrive. And I'm going to do switch one basic. And then I'm going to keep it as a text file. And so now I have a basic command text file. So you can either copy or paste it in there, or you can actually import it into the switch. And that's just another way of doing that. So you can use that as kind of your, this is how everything goes. And if you want to do a space in between, it's not going to hurt it, so that you kind of know. The only thing I see a problem with is this needs to go. Let's do this. Okay, so you really need, we really need to have this like in an order that, because what you want to do is these are all global configuration commands. This is interface VLAN 1 and these two commands are under that. Then we're going to switch to linecon 0. These commands are under linecon 0. Then we're going to switch to line BTY04, and then these commands are in there. And so our last section is going to be in line BTY04. So you could do exit at the end or exit after each one of these if you really wanted to. And you know what? I'm going to blow it in here and show you what I mean. So let's do Control C. And then go, so what you're going to do is we need to be in global config mode. Oh gosh, config T if I can spell today. And now what we can do is we can paste it in here. Let's see if it'll let me. There we go. So it says I already generated a crypto key. So what you're going to do is you blow it in or copy it in. And it says it replaced it. So it kind of gave you a couple, and then everything else, it put the spaces in there just fine. And then I haven't pressed enter. So now it puts me back into that. So you really have to pay attention to where you have your commands. And so if you have them how I have listed them, these are all global config commands, and then these are going into the different interfaces. And notice how you don't have to type in exit after each one. So this was a long version of the basic commands for switch, but it actually works out pretty good, and hopefully you'll create a nice notepad document that you can use for future commands. So if you have any questions, you can always email me at s.washer@rockvalleycollege.edu or message me through NetAcad. I would say that's the best way. So anyway, have a great day.